Alrighty. So we are going to talk about ancient Egyptian medicine today, and we're sort of going to do this as like discussion, but after I posted a video about ancient Egyptian medicine on TikTok, a lot of people wanted to know more. And so I have been contemplating making a whole series about it. So this is also going to sort of be used as a research like stream. So as something that I can start taking notes on, start getting ideas for like specific things that would be cool for videos. Because if I do an ancient Egyptian medicine series, it can obviously be about a lot of different things. And so I want to get like ideas from you guys. Like as I'm reading something, I'm like, what are the interesting parts that you guys think that I can then do more research and find? Like, do we want videos of just like, here are the recipes for an ancient Egyptian headache? Or do we want general things about all the different medical papyri that we have available? Do we want like there's so many different kind of things, and so I'm kind of using this as like I'm using you guys as the peanut gallery to pick topics that I think would be very cool. I'm pretty sure that no matter what, I'm going to do one video about each of the medical papyri that we have, and just kind of give a general overview about like what types of ailments and heals and like healing stuff are going to be about. So like that's sort of where I know I want to start the series, but then I kind of want to know, oh, like, do you want, like, because I've always like sometimes I've wanted to do ones where I just read out ancient Egyptian papyri or ancient Egyptian stories, and I've tried it in a variety of ways. I know that I did a Valentine's Day video where I read out some ancient Egyptian poetry, and then I also did a lot of voiceover ones when I was making the names in hieroglyphs. I did a voiceover of the translation of the shipwrecked sailor, and like those didn't hit a lot, but they are quite old, so like I'm not gonna be like super mad and stuff. But I want to like go over like, what do you guys want to hear? I know for the most part, a lot of people want more daily life things. So this is kind of just going to be a specific series sort of about that. Like medical equipment. And so, yeah, so we're just starting with the ancient Egyptian medicine Wikipedia, and then going from there. And I know that a lot, the Wikipedias are very good. They're very detailed, and there are lots of sources on the bottom. And a lot of them do actually have links to like PDFs that might have translations and stuff. And so we'll kind of dig down into it. We are not going to get through all of the medical papyri. I know that for sure. But I do want to find at least one like translation, and we can go and read some of the actual, like ailments and like how kind of a lot of these papyri are structured. So we just got to find one of them that I can find like a good translation that's relatively easy for us to have. Alrighty, y'all. So we're kind of just gonna wing it and such. But or I guess we'll like let's say this. So the topics that we've already gotten written down, do you guys want us to look up those specifically, or do you guys want to do a little general overview of ancient Egyptian medicine? So far I have I have ancient Egyptian coal having I can't spell anti apparently, infection properties, blue lotus flower, medicinal properties, ear and feet photos outside of temples to heal those parts of the body, and did ancient Egyptian cranial surgery. Would you guys want me to like pick those topics now and talk about them, or do you want us to do a little general? Oh, and I have an ad. Haha. Never mind. We're taking an ad break. I'm getting some corn nuts. Let me look up some of the stuff while we have the ad. Woot woot. Oh, I knew this. That's why I remembered this. Sorry. I looked up something. I was like, oh, wait a second. I know what this is. Yeah, put it in the chat. All right. That is almost over. Okay, so what we're gonna do is let's do this. We're gonna cover those 4 topics first. Anything else I write down while we are looking into these 4 topics, I'm just gonna write them down, and we won't look at them. We're gonna go back to kind of just a general overview. But let's cover these 4 topics while you guys are here, especially the people who like ask the questions about these. So we'll start with coal because I think it'll be a little quicker. Or no, we'll start with the cranium. There's a couple articles, and I will please like remind me to put these in the chat if you want to read them in depth, because I'll mostly be copying them over to like my Google Doc and stuff. This will show some skull human remains. So we have an article here from the National Library of Medicine that is Ancient Legacy of Cranial Surgery. So it'll probably, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna do Egypt and see what we got. Evidence from early times shows that man had endeavored to protect himself against injuries and traumas, jeopardizing the head in particular, for 20 centuries before Christ. Wow. I'm sorry. Sorry, that annoys me so much that is in a medical journal. But okay. Warriors of Egypt wore some sort of form of head protectors. I know that. And I will say, like, these are some of the worst papers to read. Like, I think I've told you guys this before. For a while, I was going to possibly do a paper on if Akhenaten had any sort of, like, oh no, I know this is from a medical journal. There's none of these people are probably, and these are all 3 people from like Iran and stuff. So yeah, it makes sense. But it's just, I can't believe that they said it that way, that the way they've referenced it in that way. I was almost going to write a historiography paper on all of the different medical explanations that people gave for why Akhenaten looked like Akhenaten. And I was so surprised to discover that people are still writing about him. And the funniest thing is that it's only these medical professionals. They are writing about Akhenaten, even though they're not referencing or understanding or seeing any of the art historical or archaeological evidence. They're literally going on from a medical standpoint only and not even referencing any of the art historical reasons as to why he might look like that. So it was very interesting to see that people are still doing this. He's talked about because of a lot of different reasons, because he is so different. He changed everything. He changed the religion. He changed the art. He decided to he built a brand new city and moved everyone out over there. And Yeah, that's what I have that up, or a slightly different one. Is that the one I have up? Yeah, I have one from science.org about it. I think, yeah, here's the actual article. But I'll open that one up too. We'll look at that in a sec. So let's look at this one first. So I love how they said head protectors. Okay, apparently this is the only time Egypt is even referenced. So we're going to skip that for some reason. All right, so we'll go here. This is why I thought this was ringing a bell. This is only from 2024. I did an Egypt news video about this. Thank you, Roxy Flair. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Big Tuna Neil. I do think that's another reason why Akhenaten is so fascinating, is that people like want to understand him and want to understand why he changed and then why he was removed from history, kind of, in a way. So yeah, there's a lot of things. Thank you, Lancelot, for you're awesome. So this was one of the big things that I remember coming out last year. It came out in June 2024. That's true, Mark. Absolutely. So here's our skull, and here is our little incision. So a 4,000-year-old skull and mandible of an Egyptian man shows signs of cancerous lesions and tool marks, according to a recent paper published in the journal Frontiers of Medicine. Those marks can be signs that someone tried to operate on the man shortly before his death or performed the ancient Egyptian equivalent of an autopsy to learn about the cancer after death. So there are two options that we have. And so they found evidence on various examples of primitive surgery dating back several thousands of years. In 2022, archaeologists excavated a 5,300-year-old skull of an elderly woman from a Spanish tomb. So I'm going to skip that. So trepanation, which is the drilling of the hole in the head, is perhaps the oldest known example of skull surgery, and one that is still practiced today, albeit rarely. And you drill it back. And so the practice dates back to 7,000 to 10,000 years, as evidenced by cave paintings and human remains. Do we have a cave painting of a trepanation? It's crazy. Trepanation. I can't say that word. I'm trying to focus on just this Egyptian one instead of all the other options. So there's paleopathological evidence of trepanation, prosthetics, dental fillings, and historical sources describe various therapies and surgeries, including mentions of tumors and eating lesions indicative of malignancy. They thought the cancer may have been much more prevalent in ancient Egypt than previously assumed, and if so, it seems that likely the ancient Egyptians would have developed methods for therapy or surgery to treat those cancers. I don't think this is an Egyptian skull. No, I don't think it. Oh no, yeah, I guess these are. Closely examined two ancient Egyptian skulls from different dynasties at Cambridge's Duckworth Laboratory. E270. This one has some gnarly things. What is that? Found in Giza and dates between 664 and 343 BCE, so like late period into Ptolemaic period. But then the other skull had been previously analyzed in 1963, who identified the remains as belonging to an adult male between 30 to 35 years old. Notes the lesions thought to be signs of malignancy, possible cancer of the upper throat. The E270 skull was that of a woman of 50 years old. The skull also has 3 lesions, was consistent of an osteosarcoma and a meningioma. The others seemed to be healed traumatic injuries, one from a distinctive sharp-edged bladed weapon, and other a depressed skull fracture consistent with a blunt force trauma. But that they were healed. They were healed traumatic injuries. Noted about 30 small round lesions scattered around the bone surface, indicating that the cancer had spread. There was a presence of small cut marks performed before death or perimortem with no evidence of bone remodeling or healing, indicating they were made shortly before the man's death. Most likely made with a sharp object akin to a metal surgical instrument, these could not have come from the mummification process, and given the location of the cut marks, they could have been made by a medical practitioner. I think it's here. This is the actual article. Oh yeah, this is the actual article. Let's see. Is this the picture? Yeah, that's a big hole. It's a massive hole. So this is the older woman. Why do they have to do that in such big letters? But yeah. I'm wondering if this is trepanation, but this is also like an eating away. Like this is the cancer, it looks like. Because look at how it shaped. Like she had a tumor or something on her skull. That's crazy. And then this is the other guy. And he only had the one image here. Although, actually no, he's got a lot of little holes. But only this one. This one is pretty big. The xenomorph, yeah, it looks like something burst out of the top of her skull. So yeah, so he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but these 3 are very circular. These 2 are much smaller. He's also got 2. Oh, he's got one there too. He's got quite a few holes. I think she was 50. So the male is 30 to 35 years old, and the woman is 50 years old, and she has 3 lesions. I think so. I'm getting a little confused, but 3 E270. Okay, wait. I gotta find this. Let me go to a real article. 2 skulls, E270 and 236. Yeah, so 236 is a man of 30 to 35 years. He has a diagnosed case of carcinoma of the nasopharynx, so in his nose. Sorry, I'm zooming this in so you guys can read this. With primary destruction of the maxillary, palatal, and something elements in the secondary deposits around the skull. So yeah, all of his nose, all the inside here, there's a big hole. Sorry, I'm trying to find where they say. Yeah, so E270 belonged to an adult female. Older than 50 years. The first one is an irregular big size orifice located between the right frontal and parietal bones, and can be defined as a mixed osteological reaction involving a osteolytic and sclerotic process, as well as a well-defined transition zone. It has 4 different differentiating areas inside of it. The inner zone with jagged-like contours of the inner and outer table with moth-eaten morphology, and a hyperstosis surrounding the diplo, as well as well-defined transitioning zone from the inner and outer area, and an irregular radiant sunburst forming a massive oh my god, look at these words. Spinculated periosteal reaction in alignment with the cortex, and a perireactive osteoblastic reaction surrounding the lesion with a clear development in the frontal region. I got most of that. I sort of got a lot of that. There's certain words I definitely did not get, but I can sense what they're saying is that like it all, and that's that one big piece on the top. So there's the big lesion, but then there's also the blunt force trauma looks like it's here. That part I also got. Yeah, there's just a big old hole. Big old hole. I'm gonna look for the pictures for a second. Yeah, here we have his. So here's where you see the tool marks. So see these? These little tiny straight lines. There's not too many, but there's just a few, and there's actually one up here that they didn't circle. But those are, yeah, so it's a and you can even see these little chips. These little chips around the side. They're little half circles sort of. And this is, oh, that's this one? I thought that was this one. There's, wow, look at that. Look how close that got. Oh, here's another one. You can see. Oh, and even more. There's a line here. Wow. Ugh. Funky. So is that a tumor? Is that squishy? It looks squishy, and that's why I don't think it would be, but... So yeah, so I reported on this last year as it was one of the oldest known cases of ancient Egyptian cancer. That was like specifically why. I don't remember if I included that it had I don't remember if I included that it had potential signs of intervention. I can't remember if that was part of the study when I made the video. Okay, so let me do some copying over of these links so that I don't lose all the stuff that we've learned. This is I need a little short and sweet article so that I don't get bogged down by all the crazy words. And this does not really seem as helpful. But yeah, I think those are the big ones that we'll use. I'll use that as a link. So yeah, so this is all accessible online if you want to read it. And it definitely, like, we obviously have lots of other ancient cultures who appear to have also done very similar things. But yeah, that is crazy. Like, that is a tumor. It's not a tumor. Like, that is a tumor. Okay. All right, so let us move on to our other question about ancient Egyptian coal. And I found actually 2 other articles which we can hopefully peep our head in. So this one says the efficacy of coal and erythromycin in the treatment of this, which I don't know what that is. But then I also found this, which is coal, a widely used cosmetic with hazardous biochemical composition. And then I also found this one on academia. Formulation, preliminary evaluation, and antimicrobial activity of herb-based coal. So let's just read all the abstracts. Well, actually, let's read this article first, and then we'll go and look at those articles and see. Like, those are all medical, so it's, like, gonna be hard for me to read it. TBH. So. Really? Well, okay, I can't read the first 5 seconds of the article, but we can apparently read the rest of it. So, according to ancient Egyptian manuscripts, the eye makeup was believed to have a magical role in which the gods Horus and Ra would protect wearers against several illnesses. Bacterial eye infections such as conjunctivitis, for example, would have been a common problem along the tropical marshes. But previous chemical analysis of powder residue taken from ancient makeup containers had isolated 4 lead-based compounds. This would seem to suggest that the makeup is harmful, since lead can be toxic, obviously. Not just a problem for the Romans. Instead, a new study found that low doses of lead salts in the makeup may have actually had beneficial properties. Ooh, this is new. When the salts come into contact with the skin, they boost the body's production of nitric oxide. This chemical is known to stimulate the immune system and help fight off disease causing bacteria. Huh. Based on the amount of the lead compounds in the ancient makeup, a wearer's nitric oxide levels would have increased by 240%. All right, here's the actual article. If I can actually get there. January 15th, 2010. 2 of these chemicals do not occur naturally and would have taken 30 days of hard work to make. The ancient Egyptians were aware that these compounds brought good health and were making them on purpose. That is not medical, so we're not looking it up, but you should look it up. Let's see if I can just do let's see if I can search it. Chemistry in the time of the pharaohs. I wonder if I can just like search. What did this say? Analytical chemistry. What did it say? January 2010. I'm actually gonna do December 2009, just in case. Search. But I'm gonna take out all of this and just do the dates. February 2010. February 2010. Huh. That's annoying. Ah, found it. They just don't use the word coal. Found it. All right. Oh, hello. Excuse me. Oh my god, what's going on? Ah! So this is finding out Egyptian God's secret using analytical chemistry. Biomedical properties of Egyptian black makeup revealed amperometry at single cells. Big tuna. That would make sense. Behind a paywall. Damn you, Science Direct. So this, I'm just gonna read the abstract. So, lead-based compounds were used during antiquity as both pigments and medicines in the formulation of makeup materials. Chemical analysis of cosmetic samples found in Egyptians' tombs and reconstruction of ancient recipes, as reported by Greco-Roman authors, have shown that 2 non-natural lead chlorides were purposely synthesized and were used as fine powders in makeups and eye lotions. According to ancient Egyptian manuscripts, they were essentially remedies for treating eye illnesses and skin ailments. This conclusion seems amazing because today we focus on only the well-recognized toxicity of lead salts. Here, using, ultra micro electrodes, we obtain new insight into the biochemical interactions between lead ions and cells, which support the ancient medical use of sparingly soluble lead compounds. Sub-micromolar concentrations of Pb2+ ions are shown to be sufficient for eliciting specific oxidative stress responses of keratinocytes. These consist essentially of an overproduction of nitrogen monoxide, owing to the biological role of NO is stimulating nonspecific immunological defenses. One may argue that these lead compounds were deliberately manufactured and used in ancient Egyptian formulations to prevent and treat eye illnesses by promoting the action of immune cells. Woo! That's so interesting. The one thing that I have to point out on this and stuff, that it's so mainly when it has to do with what this last sentence is, to prevent and treat eye illnesses by promoting the action of immune cells. That last part, I think, has to get sort of removed from the equation, because the ancient Egyptians didn't understand the immune system. So it's, oh, is this also behind a paywall? Also, what? I don't know what the frick statue this is. Oh, it's at the Louvre. It's they did it because it made you feel better. They didn't do it because they knew about an immune system and how that worked. And I know it's sort of phrasing, but it's they didn't do it because they said, oh, well, our immune system is going to be protected. It's because something told them that it makes them feel better and it makes them not get this sickness. Exactly, yes. Just because it worked, it doesn't mean they understood why it worked. And I'm sure that is in here and stuff, but it's one of those things that I see very often where people make that connection, and I'm like, you guys do understand that they thought the only purpose of the brain was to secrete mucus. And they thought the heart was the center of knowledge and emotion and all of those things. It's this is the problem. Big Tuna Neil, that is one thing that we're going to go look into, because I pretty sure a lot of the medical papyri that we have is literally just, here is the problem, here is the solution. And so hopefully we'll be able to find one that is about an eye infection, but yes, it kind of is that, that's something, this is something that, yes, you would have to check if we know that. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this over. This is a really great topic, though, because I had never really heard of this before. And the interesting thing is that it doesn't have to do with the actual coal material, but it has to do with the lead inside it, which I think is even more unique. I'm gonna grab this link. So the other things that we have here, I want to read this for a second. So blepharitis is a common and chronic form of eyelid inflammation. One of the most common treatments of eyelid diseases in traditional medicine is using kohl. This clinical trial aimed to investigate the efficacy is that efficacy? Efficacy as a complementary treatment to staphylological I can't say it, through an open label clinical trial. Despite randomization, there was a significant difference between the intervention and control eyes in the baseline mean clinical score. The degree of reduction of related signs and symptoms in the eyes treated with Cole was significantly higher than in the control groups for symptoms and for clinical signs. Results demonstrated a significant improvement of the signs and symptoms. That is so interesting. Okay, I'm saving that. I'm gonna read it later and we're gonna see, like, I'm curious how they put the Cole together. And this seems to have nothing to do with Egypt. It seems to do with Persian, which makes sense because isn't this the? Oh, these are also in Iran. Oh, that's so interesting. So yeah, they're not referring to Egypt. They're referring to Iran. And ancient Persia. The thing is, I wanted to... So they received a Cole and a rifamycin ointment. Interesting. Crust. Ew. Gross. Alright, that's definitely cool. So then this one might be also about the same thing. This is Pakistan. Was widely used eye cosmetic. Sorry, Mel. Sorry, Alex. I just said Mel. I was on another page, so give me 1 second. Hey, there we go. All right, I'll look at that in a sec. Thank you. Raw garlic with bread. That's probably true. They did grow garlic. The use of coal has become hazardous for human health in recent times during its changing composition. In the present study, we studied the antimicrobial potential of coal, presence of microbial pathogens and chemical contaminants in 20 coal samples from Pakistan. Okay, so this is not relevant, but I am interested. 85 branded and 15 unbranded coal samples. Our results show that 75% of the samples possess higher antibacterial activity, while 30% of the samples show antifungal potential. Moreover, pathogenic Bacillus and Aspergillus species were isolated from these coal samples as major microbial contaminants. Higher levels of arsenic, lead, and cadmium were detected in 80%, 35%, and 30% of the coal samples respectively when compared against the standard limits. Current findings show that presence of toxic metals and microbial pathogens in coal samples is hazardous for humans. Furthermore, coal shall not be used until the safe limits of carcinogenic metals and other contaminants in the coal are certified by the manufacturers. This is very interesting. So I'm not going to save this because otherwise I'm going to have to read the whole entire thing, but it's definitely super interesting, because this is about Pakistan, so I want to make sure I don't want to kind of cross my hairs, but then there's this one. Yeah, so this is a similar one. So let's read this one. That's definitely possible, Mean Machine, especially with ancient Egyptians. So that particular study could be relevant to wherever coal was gotten for Egypt. I actually don't. That's a very good question. I don't know where they got coal. And we do know that ancient Egyptians would do trade with places like Pakistan or modern day Pakistan and India, because that's where they get lapis lazuli stone. So they possibly could have gotten coal from that. But the key thing is that because that is a modern study about modern coal samples, it's unclear if a lot of those samples would have naturally occurred like that, or if that is not something that has been affected by a human intervention, like over time. So I'm not even clear what coal is. Like if it's a plant or I'm pretty sure it's, what is coal? No, I just want, what is coal? I don't want coals, I want coal. Oh my God. My God. Oh, it is galena? Jesus Christ, I don't know what is wrong with my Google. My Google has been horrible. Okay. This is what I wanted. I want this. Okay. Okay, so traditionally used with stibonite or antimony. So I actually just, did I post it already? No, I haven't posted it. I have there's a new study that came out about copper samples that were found in Elephantine Island, and antimony was one of the things that was possibly added into it. But it also could be galena, and in some cases charcoal. Lead isotope analysis of coal samples dated to the Middle Bronze Age. I was trying to see if they have an idea of what. It looks like it's more galena in Egypt, at least. So, although found locally, both black galena and green malachite were also imported from nearby regions in Western Asia, Coptos, or the land of Punt. So they did apparently have some locally, but it could have come otherwise. So, oh, would grind charred frankincense into coal. That's so interesting. Charred frankincense. Very interesting. Okay, so yeah, so it's a stone, so the potential of, check the source, yeah. With this. Okay, maybe it's weird. That does sound a little, it's the Historical Atlas of Oman. Oh yeah, I use this website a lot. Oh look, green. Yeah, malachite. I've never noticed that before. Malachite, green. Well, it definitely looks so because this statue is Old Kingdom. It's really interesting. There are definitely Old Kingdom stuff with the black one though, but that's very interesting that I've never seen that statue. Where are these? Is this at? Oh, they're at the Louvre. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen it that often, so this is the only one that I've ever seen with green malachite one, so yeah, it seems maybe Old Kingdom. I love the coal jars. Yeah, I was gonna say, I've never seen the green before, so yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. It's only a... I love this website. That website gives so much information. What was I looking at? Okay, I was looking at this one. Chronic trachoma was treated with oily and fatty ointments which contain myrrh. Okay, so this is, we're gonna cover this in a little bit. Oh, the eye blurriness. Yes, 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 yes. This was in one of the papyri. Yeah. We'll look this up, but this is another really important one. I'm gonna copy this over. So, Hector, we were actually talking about that. That was in one of the articles where it actually says that in low doses, lead can be a, what did it say? It's an it can help boost the immune system in very, very low doses. And so it said that it produces nitric oxide in your blood, and that helps promote the immune system. So it's very interesting to think about it, but it was that was what one of the studies that we were reading told us, which is so weird. Because for so long, it's just like lead has been bad, lead is bad, lead is bad. Like it always is. But it said in low doses, it actually might have helped, which is maybe why they used it. In addition to like the galena or something else. Yeah, very, very, yeah. And I'm sure, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It wasn't the main ingredient of coal. That's like the big thing, is that it was in addition to the galena. Oh, galena contains lead. Yeah, so it's part of the galena and stuff. Okay. So, what were the other two that we had on our list? Oh yeah, let me show you some of the feet and ear votives. Ear votives, ancient Egypt. Yeah, there we go. So this is, Mark was asking about, like, did they have, so there's kind of twofold of the question that you asked was, like, did they make, like, a fake leg? Like, let's say a fake leg that you could offer. They did kind of this in twofold ways. So if you had some sort of injury and you are still alive and you wanted to make a more religious votive offering to try to cure whatever your ails were, this is something that you would make, and I'll show you some of the other ones as well. But then there's also the instance that, let's say you break your leg really badly, and then you die from like an infection or something like that. Oh no, sorry, I can't see my whispers from here. You can just say it out loud and I'll write it down. What's it called? If you break your leg very, very badly and then you die because of that, a mummification priest will do his best to repair your leg, in biggest quotation marks as you can, repair that leg. Oh, abortions. Oh yeah, I can look into that. I don't think we have any, well, I know we have like potential medicines that you could take, but like actual, like a not natural abortion, like a miscarriage versus taking a medicine that could abort a baby, like actual abortions. I don't think we have anything like that. Ebers Papyrus, yeah, I know there's some things on the Ebers Papyrus. We're gonna look at that in a second. So yeah, so if your body is damaged in any way when you die, the mummification priest will do their best to make it look like you are in one piece. So in some instances, sometimes the head, like sometime during the mummification process, the head becomes like displaced from the body because obviously they've been dead for 40 days. And so sometimes they'll actually like put little supports, or they'll extra wrap around you to try to keep it all together. When Ramses III was assassinated, his throat was like slit like all the way down here and very deeply. It almost went back to his spine. When his mummy was found, he had so many wrappings around his neck to essentially try to like literally keep his neck together so that when he gets to the afterlife, he will be in one piece. And so that's sort of like this twofold question of like, did they do something to try and like heal you or repair you in the afterlife? And then this was a way that you could try to get healed religiously in real life. This is the ear stela of Usersatet was dedicated to a goddess called Nebet Het-Epet, which means she who listens to prayers. It's decorated with 4 ears in hope that the deity would hear and answer the requests of the dedicator. And in some cases, this also has to do with like actually like medical hearing and such. And I wanted to, let's just look at images because there are quite a few. Yeah, so here we go. You want an ear? You want another ear? You want another ear with somebody's name. There's another ear. That's one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite ones. Look how many ears. There's so many ears. That's another really good one. So probably these ones are probably the ones that would, so let's see what this is. Amulets in the form of a human ear were extremely common during the 18th dynasty. These amulets most commonly served a votive function of hearing ears. A votive offering, loosely defined, is a sacred gift presented, often in a confessional space, to honor a deity or as a personalized message to the deity. These so-called hearing ears were meant to encourage a deity to hear and constantly answer a dedicant's plea. Votive stelae where decorated ear motifs could serve a similar function. So in this case, they were likely an offering to the bovine goddess of love and joy, Hathor, as well as like in Thebes, the cult center. So I'm actually incorrect. I realize these ones are more, I thought these were more about healing deafness, but it turns out, it seems that these are actually more about trying to make sure somebody hears you. But I do know that I'm pretty sure the foot votives, I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be healing stuff. Let me see. This is just saying it's a model. I don't think it's a model. It's, I thought, I know that I have read about ancient Egyptian oh, there are some ears. There's an eye. Okay, wait a second. Let's see what this is. If you're reading this, you're either looking for some information on female votive offerings or you're extremely lost and confused. Alternative forms of medicine. Okay. Anatomical votive offering. Well, these offerings are realistic sculptures of a specific body part of an individual, often made out of clay that either needs to be healed or has been previously healed, which were then presented at a healing temple of the gods. So these are seen as a reappearance of previous traditions in 500 BCE, but gained more popularity around 400 to 300. Sculptures of the healthy body part, or less commonly, were body parts that showed a specific injury or illness. And this might be ancient Egypt, but this actually might be Roman. Maybe that's why I'm getting confused. I think these are Roman. I don't think these are, I think that's why I'm confused. I could have sworn I've read about these in Egypt though. Massage in ancient Egypt. Yeah, these are all about Greco-Roman. Oh my God, look at this leg. That's really funny. I could have sworn, I distinctly remember reading about a temple in ancient Egypt where they were all buried outside of it. And I think something is actually wrong with my Google. I just put this in quotation marks and none of these things are coming up with quotation marks. I'm like genuinely like... Are these Egyptian? Are these Egyptian? This is Roman. This is Roman. I think this is the same thing. That's also Roman. It's Roman. Yeah, this is the problem. No, this is not the article, but this is like, yeah, the same. I was looking, this is the article that it's a blog. Are those nipples or breasts? I was trying to see if, I could have sworn this was a Egyptian thing as well, but you know what I think I did? I think I did exactly what I always tell people not to do, and I made an assumption that probably appears in Greco-Roman Egypt, and I probably put it all to, I probably put it all against that. I'll try to see if I can find it. I think I essentially took these ears and I just ran with it and thought they were more medical than they really were. So, all right. I'm gonna delete that one from my list until I find better things. I'm gonna leave the Blue Lotus stuff out, and then we'll go general, and then we'll see what pops up. So I have two things that we can kind of read over. No photo, but anatomical votive, New Kingdom. Yeah, maybe it's I just have to. It doesn't even say what it is. Votive offerings to Hathor. Oh, it's a phallus. The British Museum's website is broken. I can't scroll. This happened to me earlier. I was searching for something yesterday and I can't scroll. It doesn't let you scroll. The whole website's broken. I literally can't. I cannot scroll. British Museum's website is bonkers. Yes. But is it healing because the penis is wrong? Probably not. No. It's probably for something else. Okay, so I have two kind of main articles, but this is kind of traditional ancient Egyptian medicine and review, but I think we're just going to go with the Wikipedia because it's a little bit clearer to read. From the country they took it from. So good. Got the jokes today. I love how there's just no history. There's an empty history section on this, but so No, Slater, be nice. We're gonna get an ad in a second. So I kind of talked about it before, but I, no matter what, am going to do, I think, at least one video on all the ancient Egyptian medical papyri, which there is a big long list down here. And we'll pick one of them. I don't think I can. I tried everything to make it scroll the other day when I was doing. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 papyri that talk about medicine pretty much. So that's like easy 12 videos of the whole thing, and just briefly talking about what time it dates to, how did we find it, what are some of the things that it talks about, because we're not going to be able to like get everything into it, but I think that's like easy, something I can put. What I really liked is that this Wikipedia page has a list of doctors, of like physicians, and that is really cool because I didn't know we knew this many. So Imhotep is an obvious one, but there's a guy named Hesi Ra, which I sort of knew about. I think he was possibly the first known dentist in history. Medu Nefer, Pethu, Peshet, Eshet, apparently woman, a midwife maybe, Kar, Samtik Seneb, Ujahor es Nets, Harisi son of Ramos, or Ramosa, Peft U Anith, whoa, what an interesting name, Witty, and then Jehudi, Emheb, and God, what a very interesting name, Pefti Au Meuneth. What a very interesting name. He's much later. But I think doing videos on them would be really, really cool, because I did not really know these guys. And then we'll start from the top and just kind of go through some of this. But we're about to get an ad in about 30 seconds. So I'm gonna do a little writing. Feel free to ask any questions. But what we're gonna do is start with, I'm actually gonna copy the names of these right here. We got the Edwin Smith papyrus. Copy link. Ebers is a big one. We got the Cahoon Gynecological papyrus. Sorry if anyone who is not a subscriber is asking me questions, because I can't see the chat right now. I'm just trying to copy these all down before. And then the ermine. Oh my god, I cannot spell papyrus. And then the Leiden papyrus. From Deir al-Bahri. Interesting. What? Stupid. Hi, Uncle Bill. Stupid British Museum. Okay, let's scroll back up to the top. Okay, 42 seconds. Yes, Hector. We're gonna look for some. We will look for some back pain recipes. Okay. Ad break is done. Okay, so I've written down all of the papyrus names in my Google Doc. We'll do a video about all of those, and then I put a note saying, like, do some videos on the ancient Egyptian doctors, which are here. And Hector has a request that we're gonna go look for a remedy for back pain. So we'll go through this general information, and then we'll go and pick a papyrus that has a lot of examples, and we'll go see if we can find a translation of it. So the very interesting thing that appears is that for the longest time, we didn't have information about ancient Egyptian medical texts because we didn't have the papyruses until about the 19th century. And so anything that we had... What do you mean, write anything? I'm typing it. Also, I gotta do abortion. I gotta add that to the list. Ah, cancel. I just remembered that one. So the funny thing about it is that, like, any knowledge that we had about ancient Egyptian medicine came from these later historians who would write about stuff. So Herodotus, Pliny the Elder, Hippocrates, all these guys. I wrote it down. That does not mean the same thing as it needs to be. But then really, like, when you're about to. So then, like, essentially when we get to, like, when we are able to actually read ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and we're actually honestly able to read them well, like anything from the late 1800s, like, is kind of not worth reading translations and stuff. We find these medical papyri, and so all of these have really given us a much better insight into what medicine was like in ancient Egypt. So you have the Edwin Smith Papyrus is like a textbook on surgery, and details anatomical observations and the examination, diagnosis, treatment, and prognosis of numerous ailments, written about 1600 BCE, but might have been a copy of an earlier text. You have to remember that a lot of these papyri, there's a high potential that some of them were copied pieces. Like a scribe is practicing to learn how to write, and so he is given a piece or something is recited to him, and he has to write it down to practice how he writes in hieratic or hieroglyphs. And so some of these papyri potentially are actually very old, but it's what we are the physical piece that we are looking at is some student's practice sheet almost. Most of that has to occur with like actual ancient Egyptian like literature and stories and pieces you'll find on ostraca, which are broken pieces of pottery or broken pieces of limestone. Papyrus is very expensive, and so it's like it's a kind of back and forth, but like there is a chance that it could be something that is like passed on and such. Hi, Uncle Bill. Thank you for defending my honor. Medical information in it dates from as early as 3000 BCE. It's probably like some sort of learning manual potentially. So treatments often consist of ointments made from animal, vegetable, or fruit substances or minerals. And there is evidence of oral surgery being performed as early as the 4th dynasty. Ebers Papyrus has 877 prescriptions, which are essentially the listing of the ailment and then what the remedy would be, which does involve some magical remedies, because they're very much intertwined. Also has documentation revealing awareness of tumors, along with like possible tumor removal instructions. The Kahun Gynecological Papyrus treats women's complaints, includes problems with conception. There are 34 cases detailing diagnosis and treatment survive, some of them fragmentally, probably dating to around 1800. There's the Hearst Papyrus, the Berlin Papyrus. We'll look at some of the other ones. There is the Bruch Papyrus, which is the one where I found the word for ancient Egyptian fart. So, there. So I am going to keep this for later because one of our future experts is somebody who is sort of an expert on like nutrition and health. And so I think we should do a medical like talk with him. So I'm going to save this stuff for when we talk with him. So the Edwin Smith Papyrus contains many recipes to help heal different ailments. One short section of the papyrus lays out 5 recipes, one dealing with problems women may have had, 3 on the techniques for refining the complexion, and a 5th recipe for ailments of the colon. Known to use honey, juices of the pomegranate as both an astringent and as a delicacy. I think we'll look at the Ebers Papyrus because it has over this 800 remedies in there. A recipe to cure constipation consists of berries from the castor oil tree, the male palm, and genjit beans, just to name a few. One recipe was to help headaches, was called for inner of onion, fruit of the arm tree, natron, set chef seeds, bone of the swordfish, cooked redfish, cooked skull of crayfish, cooked honey, and abra ointment. I do love this image. So this is at Kamombo. Yeah, I think we'll look at the Ebers Papyrus, hopefully. So Kamombo has this depiction of ancient Egyptian medical instruments. Granted, it's from the Ptolemaic period, so some of these may have been introduced by the Greeks, but there are some crazy looking tongs and scissors and pokey items and flames and a scale, and yeah, there's some crazy items in here. Egyptian physicians were aware of the existence of the pulse and its connection to the heart. The author of the Smith Papyrus even had a vague idea of the cardiac system. However, he did not know about the blood circulation and deemed it unimportant to distinguish between blood vessels, tendons, and nerves. They developed their theory of channels that carried air, water, blood to the body by analogies with the River Nile. If it became blocked, crops became unhealthy. They applied this principle to the body. If a person was unwell, they would use a laxative to unblock the channels. Hi, Silver. Yeah, pokey items. Absolutely. Very scientific term. Oh my god. Oldest text mentioning enemas is in the Ebers Papyrus, as medications were administered using enemas. And this is what I saw earlier, and it gave me a wild thing. One of the many types of medical specialists was an Erie. The shepherd of the anus? What the fuck is that? I'm writing that down as a topic that I have to make a video on, because I'm sorry. Shepherd of the anus. Is wild. I bet that was the enema guy. Yeah. What is that from? History of Medicine. So the oldest metal surgical tools in the world were discovered in the tomb of Kar. Surgery was a common practice among physicians as a treatment for physical injuries. They had 3 categories of injuries: treatable, contestable, and untreatable. Knives, hooks, drills, forceps, pincers, scales, spoons, saws, and a vase with burning incense. I do think that the difference between blood vessels, your nerves, and tendons are much better. My next banger short, I'm excited. The Shepherd of the Anus. I bet people will love that. Circumcision was normal. And there is an image of there is image of circumcision that we have on tomb walls in some places. The only known depiction of the procedure in the tomb of the physician at Ankh-Mahor in Saqqara shows adolescent or adults, not babies. Female circumcision may have been practiced, although a single reference to it in ancient texts might be a mistranslation. Interesting. Okay. Prosthetic toes, such as artificial toes and eyeballs, were also used. Typically, they served little more than decorative purposes. In preparation for burial, as I mentioned earlier, missing body parts would also be replaced. However, these do not appear that they would have been useful or even attachable before death. But there are some prosthetic items. There's a picture of it. Here we go! I was so happy to see this in person. So this is now on display at the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization in Cairo. Sorry, Slater, I gotta clip that. I don't know why that is just so funny. He's just got a big fake toe, a big fake big toe. Just that little, I love that little GIF face. He's just like, but it's made out of leather and wood. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about dentistry, because I don't know much about this. Dentistry was an independent profession, dates to the early 3rd millennium, although it may never have been that prominent. Egyptian diet was high in abrasive sand. So yeah, if I talked about this all the time when I gave tours at my grad school, is that ancient Egyptian teeth were some of the worst teeth, and what's so interesting is that ancient Egyptian teeth, sometimes when you like do a CT scan of a mummy, like to try to determine like what their cause of death would be, some of the only things that you can still see in the mummy, as long as it's like a high quality mummification, is the infection in the mouth. And so like there are so many mummies that have indications that they were yes, Silver. I'm gonna talk about that in a second. There were so many mummies that had huge tooth infections, and like, yes, there's a possibility that they could have gotten like a blood poisoning or like a blood infection that would have then killed them. It's not sometimes always can be determined as the cause of death, but it's something that you can still see, because more often than not, rather than being in the actual audio or the actual flesh, it's actually in the bone, and so it would still appear on CT scans or x-rays when it's been mummified. But yeah, that is a very good spot for the I hate sand. It's hard and coarse. So it's kind of twofold. It's essentially, I used to joke with like the kids that like ancient Egyptians pretty much ate sand all the time, and it's kind of twofold in this. It's that there's a lot of sand where they live, and there's a lot of wind, and there's a lot of sand that gets picked up by the wind. But the other part that was it is that the grain would be ground down on these large grinding stones, which would also slowly but surely break apart. It's almost like talking about like microplastics now, like these small pieces of stone and sand would just get integrated into the grain, which then they used to make the beer, and then they used to make the bread. And also the bread was extremely hard. It was not a soft bread. And so it's like all of that kind of together would break down their teeth slowly over time. So most ancient Egyptians had very, very bad teeth. So it's the grinding of grain and bits of rocks in which the bread was prepared. A steady decrease in severity and incidence of worn teeth throughout 4000 BC to 1000, probably due to improved grain grinding techniques. So it actually gets a little bit better. But all Egyptian remains have sets of teeth in quite poor states. And again, it says it could even be fatal, as this guy, Jedma'at S. Ankh, who died around the age of 35 from extensive dental disease and a large infected cyst. So the weird thing is that, like, even though the teeth are being worn down, because there's not a lot of sweet items, they didn't get cavities necessarily, which is very weird and interesting and very annoying. And we know that in this text, the instruction of Ankh Sheshank contains the maxim, "There is no tooth that rots yet stays in place." It doesn't seem like we have any tools that would use for extractions and stuff. But there are some remains that do show sign of forced tooth removal. And replacement teeth have been found, although it's not clear whether they are just post-mortem cosmetics. Extreme pain might have been medicated with opium. I don't know if the Egyptians had opium. I'm gonna have to do research on that. Opium comes... Well, so here's the thing. Opium only comes from specific poppies from Asia. They are not in all types of poppies. Opium only is in... It's one of those weird things, is that like the California poppy does not have naturally occurring opium in the poppy seeds. But opium from Pakistan, so like it is possible, because obviously Egypt and did have some stuff like some trade between those areas. Josephus, the Sumerians were the first to use opium, and they called it the plant of joy. I love that. Yeah, it's definitely possible that they had it, but it would not have been native to Egypt. That's why I'm like, that's why it's like, it's possible, but it would not be I don't think that there is a native poppy to Egypt. Okay. Thank you, Mark. Where'd you get that from? But also, I will say, it's not that unsurprising that it only appears during the reign of Tutankhamun, because that is when trade is so much bigger. Trade is so, like, in the New Kingdom, trade with Mesopotamia is so much larger than it is in the Old Kingdom or the Middle Kingdom. So it's not unsurprising to me that they would have that only during that time period. Oh, it's PBS. Okay. Ah, it's the Opium Kings. What website have you sent me to? All right. I'm going to make that a video though, because I do know a lot about like more modern opium because of my work at the Apothecary Museum. Opium in ancient Egypt. Yeah, I'll look that up later. But yeah, that's a good video. Opium bottles in Hawaii? Really? Like old opium bottles? Like what time period? That's so interesting. Where was I? Nope, I was not there. I was here. That's so cool. That's really, really cool. So yeah, so I wouldn't doubt the Egyptians had access to it, but it does not surprise me that it only really appears in the New Kingdom when trade became much more frequent between the Near East and Egypt. Ancient Egyptian word for a doctor is a sunu. And earliest recorded physician in the world is Hesi Ra. There he is. Oh yeah, I know Hesi Ra. He's a really big dude. He's got this beautiful wooden door that is preserved, even though he's from the 3rd dynasty, which is awesome. He was the chief of dentists and physicians to King Djoser, so pre-pyramids, which is awesome. Yes, the English and the Chinese had the big opium wars. I know more of it in an American sense. I don't know as much about it in the Chinese history of it. The lady, Peseshet, may be the first recorded female doctor. She was possibly the mother of Akhetotep, and on a stela dedicated to her in her tomb, she is referred to as an Imi-Ar Sunut, which has been translated as the lady overseer of the lady physicians, because it's the female version of Sunu. Isn't that really cool? Like a historical fiction show? I'm blanking on one. I can't think of one in my mind. But I'm not, that's a time period I'm not as versed up on. Especially English history, that time period. I don't know. I'm blanking. Known ancient Egyptian specialists are an ophthalmologist, that's eyes, gastroenterologist, proctologist is colorectal surgery and dentist, and a doctor who supervises butchers, interesting, and an unspecified inspector of liquids. That's so gross. So this is the ancient Egyptian term for a proctologist, is the shepherd of the anus. I think they do. I gotta look at this guy. Eri Nachet was an ancient Egyptian physician, only known from a false door found in Giza and reused as a cover for a shaft tomb, so he doesn't have a tomb associated. Bears on the false door several rare titles. He was the senior physician of the Great House, so of the Neferper is essentially the palace, the Great House. physician of the belly of the great house, protector of the anus, and physician of the eyes of the great house. Very interesting. These titles attest high specialization in medicine already in the Old Kingdom. He's also called an Erie, which is a short version of his longer name. His good name was Nyank Pepi. Oh, interesting. That's so funny. Oh, God. I think this one translated as differently as protector, but I will say shepherd and protector, I think are almost the exact, I think they are the same word in ancient Egyptian. So like protector of the, because a shepherd, while the shepherd does guide, a shepherd also protects. And so I think those words are interchangeable. I'd have to check what the actual hieroglyphs are on this. It comes from inscriptions from the Heracleopolitan era, or period, from 2011. I'll have to see if I can find that, because I love this guy. Because he's gonna make a great video for sure. Shepherd of the anus. I still think protector or shepherd are really fun, but I also want to know what word is anus, and if it really is butt or if it is anus. Like, I want to know I know there's not that much of a difference, but I want to know what other context that word is used in, because I'm very curious. I'm sure it's mostly just used in other medical papyri, but the fluid inspector of liquids is so funny. I gotta figure out who has that title, because inspector of liquids. Oh yeah, your transplant. So institutions called the Per Ankh, or the Houses of Life, are known to have been established in ancient Egypt since the First Dynasty, and may have had medical functions, being at times associated in inscriptions with physicians. Their employees enjoyed such benefits as medical insurance, pensions, and sick leave. Okay, medical insurance is one thing. The sick leave is absolutely true, because I'm assuming, because they're referring to the 19th dynasty, I'm assuming that this is referring to the people in Deir el-Medina who definitely did get sick leave days. Like, if they were sick, they were allowed to not go to work. And pensions, I think, does make sense, because you would get it from the city. But medical insurance, I don't know what they're referring to. All right, so these are a table of some of these physicians, and I really want to read about them. And then we'll go look at the Ebers Papyrus. So Imhotep is the big one, but he did so many other things. His medical practices are honestly moot in comparison to everything else that he kind of did. So he's the one who comes in peace, or is with peace. He's mainly known for being the architect of the Djoser pyramid complex. Oh, Alex! You're amazing. There we go. There he is. Very cool. So yeah, so this is the false story. So yeah, essentially it says that he didn't have a tomb, but this false door was found sealing another old tomb. This is awesome. It's a reused. Oh, he is! He's the interpreter of liquids! Hi, Thordal, how are you? We're talking about medical doctors in ancient Egypt, and my God, do they have some gross titles. So he is, let's see if I can read this in Egyptian. He is identified as the Su Nu Sem Su Per O Mu M Henu and what is that? Nechet Sahed Su Nu Per Su Nu Irti Per Su Nu Het Per En Peut, Herp, Serket. So chief physician of the Great House, interpreter of the liquids hidden within the Netijet, which is an unknown entity, inspector of physicians of the Great House, eye physician of the Great House, abdominal physician of the Great House, guardian of the rectum. He who has command over Selket. Oh, okay. That's so interesting. So Selket, Selket is the goddess of, poisons? What is she? Selket. Is she the, yeah. Selket or Serket. No, wait a second. No, yeah, Selket. She is the goddess of protection against venomous stings and bites of scorpions. So if he is he who commands over Selket, he like literally is commanding over the goddess who is going to prevent scorpion bites. Like, how? That is the coolest fucking title I've ever seen. That is so fucking cool. Oh, this is in Vienna. This is not in Egypt. This is in the Historic Museum in Vienna, Austria. Excavations behind the Pyramid of Khufu in Vienna, 1926. So yeah, it was found reused as roofing in shaft S2065. So it probably had a tomb that it was actually associated with, but it does not exist anymore. And they reused this. Yeah, of course it's in Europe. It's just weird because Digital Giza, the items that are usually seen in Digital Giza are usually either in Giza or in Boston. Because this is all the Harvard University project. So a lot of the stuff is Reisner's collection. And so usually all of the documentation and photos are stuff that were from the Reisner excavations. And so they're in Boston. So I'm surprised this one they included some of the items from stuff that the Vienna group did. All right, I'm keeping that. Boop, boop, doo-doo. He is officially like my favorite person, and I really want to make that video like now rather than wait. But thank you, Alex. Good find. Nope, that's not where I am. I'll show you. Dee. So I had it on the other screen, but all of my stuff is sort of formatted like this. So right now this is just it's just labeled as my medicine series, and it all just will be on one big Google Doc, and I have all the ideas here. Usually what I do is I make them a different header so that they pop up, and so when I do like this, they'll pop up here. And then I add all the links, and it's sort of a way that I can keep all these ideas and all these series, and then whenever I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get prepped to go write, I'll go and do all the research, and I'll just drop all the links to the info so that I don't have to like go and find the research. So this is what you guys are helping me do, is that I'm deciding on all the videos that I want to try to do for this series, and I'm just putting all the links down in here so that I don't have to go and find them again, especially if it's something so randomly like the Shepherd of the Ancient. Like, it's a very random extra thing, so I just have it on another Google Doc. Okay. Nah, man, you don't want to see my Google Docs. My Google Docs are crazy right now. This is what my Google Doc currently looks like. So this is all under my MelissainDeNile, and this is my current video projects list. So I have Ask an Egyptologist. This is document 3 of my Ask an Egyptologist, because after I write the article and after I write the video and then I move the script all the way to the bottom so that all the current ideas are at the top and all the ones that have already been done are at the bottom. I've gone through 3 full docs because they're so big and I don't want to have to keep scrolling. So that's the third one. These ones are things that haven't started. So medical, I know people want to do daily life artifacts. I have both the corpus of the dogs in the Excel and then also a PowerPoint of all the photos in here. But we got dogs, we got Egypt news, we got Egypt trip videos, artifact insight, we got Egypt trip videos, museums with Melissa, we have Egypt trip videos, travel tips, we have gods, museums with Melissa. This is a notes about some article that I was reading, and then obelisks of ancient Egypt, and then a palace series because somebody asked me to do a palace series. Piled high and deeper. Yeah, but only if it only shows you it only shows the outline if you have it in like headings. See, it pops up. So they have to be in like heading 4. So that's normally what I do, is I put them in headings so that if I want to find the exact topic I'm talking about without scrolling, but you have to make them into a heading, otherwise it does not show up. Or I add sub tabs, but it's easier if you just make them headings. Okay. Ugh, why am I so hot suddenly? Ugh. I'm gonna turn the fan on higher. Ugh. I'm gonna keep that remote closer to me. Ugh. Okay. Hi, Kinamara, how are you? We are talking about ancient Egyptian medicine today. We're at the point where we're talking about doctors, and then we're gonna go look at a papyrus and try to see if we can read some of it. Go away. So like Imhotep had so many titles, and like he's mainly known as being a architect, but apparently he did also have some doctor medical duties. So, Chancellor of the King, Doctor, first in line after the King of Upper Egypt, Minister of the Great Palace, Hereditary Nobleman, High Priest of Heliopolis, Builder, Chief Carpenter, Chief Sculptor, Maker of the Vases in Chief. And so the other thing is that after 2,000 years after he died, when the ancient Egyptians in the late period did something called archaizing, where they looked back at these ancient peoples, which were the Old Kingdom ancient Egyptians, and they decided to copy their art style and thus adopted Imhotep as a deity. And he was mainly known as a deity of medicine and healing rather than a deity of like architecture, which is like kind of the thing he's more well known for. And so it says here, whether he is actually a physician is actually debated, because he was much more of an architect and obviously a builder and a carpenter and a sculptor and stuff. There you go, Uncle Bill. We love that. We love finding easy tricks. Easy tricks. Imhotep. So besides Imhotep, we have Hesi-Ra, which we showed. There he is. Great one of the dentist. And he has like a beautiful wooden panel that has survived. Medu-Nefer was the leader of the eye physicians of the palace. He's got a mastaba in Giza. Then we got Penthu, who's got a shit ton of titles during Akhenaten. So it does skip. It doesn't appear that we have... Oh, these are not in order. Oh, I can't order them. Okay, never mind. Scrap what I was about to say. So this guy was the seal bearer of the king of Lower Egypt, the sole companion, the attendant of the Lord of the Two Lands, the favorite of the good God, king scribe, king subordinate, first servant of the Aten in the mansion of the Aten in Akhet Aten, chief of physicians, and chamberlain. So he was supposedly the chief physician to Akhenaten. It says, may he survive the upheavals of the end of the Amarna period and served under Ai after being vizier under Tutankhamun. And he has apparently a tomb in Amarna tomb number 5. Oh, I think we looked at this. I remember this tomb now. The tomb of Pethu. Then we got this girl, which we're definitely doing a video on her. Female physician. Fourth dynasty, she's the lady overseer of the female physicians, which is even cool. May have been a midwife, but definitely the oldest known female physician. Carr is the other guy that we found. So he's from the 6th dynasty, who's known as the royal physician. We have the oldest bronze and copper surgical tool in the world. His mummy in the limestone sarcophagus and 22 bronze statues of different deities and a statuette of Imhotep the physician. He died around the age of 50 and was buried in his tomb in Saqqara, which was reused several times. Do you have an image of Carr? No, it doesn't look like it. Samtek Seneb, may King Samtek be healthy. Very easy. Very easy. Oh, she has a TED Ed video? Cool. Oh my god, I know that video. I literally, as soon as you said that, I was like, wait a second. I've seen that video before. I've seen that video before. Maybe we'll watch it. So this guy's all the way in the 26th dynasty. It definitely doesn't seem like we have any preserved physicians in like the Middle Kingdom. Yeah, we don't seem to have any physicians in the Middle Kingdom. Only really in the Old and the New and then later. So he's the head of physicians, a scorpion charmer, chief physician, chief dentist of Samtek Seneb, and the admiral of the royal fleet. Has a tomb discovered in Heliopolis. Oh, he's got a big statue. And then we got this guy. Look at these titles. This is actually crazy. Head of physician, supervisor of medical schools, the houses of life, the prince, the royal chancellor, the unique companion, the prophet of the one who lives with them, the chief physician, the one truly known and loved by the king, the scribe, the inspector of the scribes of the Dedet court, the first among the great scribes of the prison, the director of the palace, the admiral of the royal navy of the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Kennebebre, the admiral of the royal navy of the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Ankh-Ka-en-Re, head of the province of Sais. Oh my god. A lot of things. His titles are preserved at a statue. Oh, I've seen this statue before. At the Vatican, and he's got a tomb in Abu Sir. But this is like Emmaus to Darius, so 26th dynasty, but then also during the Persian rule of Egypt, so very, very end of Egyptian history. We got this guy, head of physician, chief physician of Upper and Lower Egypt, leader of the Aegean foreign troops, and the admiral of the royal fleet. It's so interesting that these physicians are admirals of the navy. It's a very interesting combination. Mentioned in the instructions of Ankh-Sheshank as the source of the plot that led to the imprisonment of the unfortunate Ankh-Sheshank. I don't know this story. I've never heard that story before. And then we got this guy who's got a freaking crazy ass name. My goodness. Chief physician. EUT. Chief physician. They're the Ptolemies, exactly. Jeudi Emheb, the wise scribe and physician, and then another chief physician. Alrighty, let's take a look at the Ebers Papyrus. Do I have it open? Yeah, I do. Alright. Oh, I gotta take a drink of water. Okay. So, so the Ebers Papyrus is a very important medical papyri of herbal knowledge dating to around 1550 BCE, so late Second Intermediate Period, early New Kingdom. Among the oldest and most important medical papyri in ancient Egypt, it was purchased at Luxor in the winter of 1873 to 1874 by the German Egyptologist Georg Ebers, and kept at the Leipzig University Library in Germany. So this is the super freaking disappointing part about pretty much every single piece of papyri, medical papyri that we have. The vast majority were purchased on the art market and have no original provenience to tell us where they actually were discovered. And it's super bummer. It's like, I don't even know if we know a single one that has been actually found in the place that we, like, literally. I don't think we know a single one. I'd have to check, but most of these have been purchased, like, on the art market. And, like, it's totally unclear where any of these pieces came from. And if there are more, if there are, like, associated with a potential, like, with a specific guy who was buried, like, it's really a bummer, and it annoys the shit out of me, honestly, because it just tells me that somebody probably looted a hugely important site that potentially could be like some sort of library or some sort of thing like that had a lot of these pieces, and it's like we have no idea, like, just absolutely no idea. It's a 110-page scroll, which is about 20 meters long. So one side of another document, the Carlsberg Papyrus number 8 is identical to the Ebers Papyrus, though it's the provenance of the former is unknown. So that is super interesting, and again reinforces the aspect that, like, these are all, like, people are just writing them to write them and to practice their writing skills, rather than actually using these as things that, like, you could mail and then somebody in another town would know, like, the medical like knowledge and stuff. Like, that's not potentially the main function of these. Over 842 magical formulas and folk remedies and general injuries. Contains many incantations meant to turn away disease-causing demons, and also evidence of a long tradition of empiricism, which I don't understand. So papyrus contain a treatise on the heart. It notes that the heart is the center of the blood supply, with vessels attached for every member of the body. They seem to have known little about kidneys and made the heart the meeting point of a number of vessels which carried all the fluids in the body: blood, tears, urine, and semen. Bye, Mark. And empiricism. Thank you. Mental disorders are detailed in a chapter of the papyrus called the Book of Hearts. Disorders such as depression and dementia are covered. Descriptions of these disorders suggest that Egyptians conceived of mental and physical diseases in much the same way. Also has chapters on contraception, diagnosis of pregnancy, and other gynecological matters, intestinal disease and parasites, eye and skin problems, dentistry, and the surgical treatment of abscesses and tumors, bone setting, and burns. This also says the treatment for asthma suggested in the Ebers Papyrus is a mixture of herbs heated on a brick so that the patient could inhale the fumes, which is super fucking interesting. Ebers Papyrus may be... Whoa, time out. The Ebers Papyrus may be considered a precursor of ancient Greek humoral pathology and the subsequent established theory of humorism, providing a historical connection between ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, and medieval medicine. That would be fucking crazy if that's true. That would genuinely be a little bit wild. So for those who don't know what humorism is, this is something that I actually talk about almost daily at the apothecary museum that I work at. Humorism is a science, quote unquote, scientific belief or medical science belief that stems from the ancient Greeks, and was essentially believed often on until germ theory. Depends on where you are when that kind of comes around, but it could be around the 1860s, roughly. Sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later. It's just harder for some people to kind of wrap their head around invisible germs that kind of make you sick and stuff. And so that the humorism is the belief in the four humors, which is the belief that there are four liquids inside your body that anytime you were sick, one or more of those liquids were out of balance. And those included blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm were the four. Black bile and yellow bile kind of being vague and kind of covering a couple different things back and forth. And the interesting thing about the humors is this is also where bloodletting comes from. And thank you, Alex. I did need that. I did need that explanation. So bloodletting comes from the four humors theory because there was this belief that anytime that you had a fever, there was too much blood in your body. And that is literally where the phrase hot-blooded comes from, and that you were like so hot, you were hot-blooded. And that blood needed to be removed. The unfortunate thing, of course, we now know is that every time you have a fever, that is your body telling you that something is wrong with your body. And so some of the medicines that actually would have been used to counteract the three other humors, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile, actually would have been better used if they understood that a fever could indicate problems with one of those three rather than always bloodletting you. And so that is why so many people got bloodlet and why they didn't understand that the immune system goes through the blood and thus kind of supplies that, and that removing the blood does not help you. It usually makes you weaker. Does not kill you. Does not kill you. They knew that you needed blood, so they were not going to take too much blood, but they would take enough that it would make you considerably weaker. Speaking of all these humors and yellow bile, I have to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to do a quick battle royale break, and I will be back shortly. That is if I can spell battle royale. I'll be right back. I am back. Who won? Oh, I won. Whoop, sorry. Hello, welcome on in to the TikTok live. Sorry, I was taking a bathroom break. Also, we're gonna have an ad, so I'm gonna snooze it for 5 minutes. Yes, I'm sorry. I rigged it, I promise. We are talking about ancient Egyptian medical history and currently looking at the Ebers Papyrus. Oh, excuse moi. And some of the examples of medical remedies. I was hoping, let me see if I can find a translation of it. Problem is, I think it's in German. Oh, here we go. This one might be it. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. This is a older thing, but we'll look at that in a second. So we'll just look at some of the ones here, but I think we can read a little bit of it in the next thing. So here are some example remedies in the Ebers Papyrus. To prevent conception, smear a paste of dates, acacia, and honey to wool and apply as a pessary, which is something that is inserted into the vagina. I had a feeling. Diabetes. So all the diabetes. Drink a mixture including elderberry, acet plant fibers, milk, beer swill. Gross. Cucumber flowers, and green dates. It is not known what acet is. So yeah, so there are certain... This is something I've noticed that is kind of difficult in a lot of medical papyri, as well as like food items and such, is that they had very particular names for certain plants, but they never really described them. And so it's kind of hard to find out what exact plant that we're talking about. They just, it's an acet plant. That's what it is. Like, they don't describe what it actually like could be, sort of. So it's hard to sometimes figure out what that plant is. Guinea worm disease. Wrap the emerging end. Oh, Jesus Christ, no. Why did I read that? That's so gross. Ugh. It says, wrap the emerging end of the worm around a stick and slowly pull it out. Oh, God. I'm gonna puke. That's so gross. Okay, bleary eyes. Combine the following ingredients into a paste to apply to the bleary-eyed patient. Myrrh, onions, verdigris, toxic copper salts, cool, and cyperus from the north with antelope dung. There is so much animal poop in a lot of these recipes, which is unfortunate. Clear oil and entrails of the caudate. So again, like, they don't even say, they say it's caudate and we can tell that it's an animal, but we have no idea what animal it is. So, it's fun. This could be painted on with a vulture's feather. To drive blood from the eyes, create 2 substances, one from powdered fruit of the dawn palm and milk of a woman who has borne a son. That is also a common ingredient. The other, cow's milk. Then in the morning, bathe both eyes from the first mixture, then wash the eyes with the cow's milk 4 times for 6 days. Ooh. What is xanthalasum? Ah! Spots. Use a combination of red lead, goose grease, and ginger. Oh, God! These are all eye things. Why? Apply a mixture of red lead, powdered wood from Arabia, iron from Apopolis parva, calamine, ore of zinc. Not the same thing. Egg of an ostrich, saltpeter from Upper Egypt, sulfur, and honey to the eyes. Trichosasis. Oh, eyelashes that have gone back into the eyes that touch the cornea. Combine myrrh, lizard's blood, bat's blood, and then tear out the hairs and put thereon in order to make him well. Then use a mixture of incense ground in lizard's dung, cow's blood, donkey's blood, pink's blood, dog's blood, stag's blood, collyrium, antique term for lotion or liquid wash as a cleanser, and incense to prevent the hair from growing back in the eye after being pulled out. Yeah. Blindness. Use 2 eyes of a pig with the water removed. Gross. With the water removed from them. Red lead, wild honey to create powder and inject it into the ear. While mixing, you must repeat these words. I have brought this thing and put it in its place. The crocodile is weak and powerless. It's crazy. Constipation, chew bits of berry along with beer and it will relieve the constipation. Migraines, a clay effigy of a crocodile with herbs stuffed into its mouth was firmly bound to the head of the patient by a linen strip. The linen strip is inscribed with the names of the Egyptian gods. This treatment was said to get rid of the ghosts and demons that were causing the pain. This remedy likely reduced the pain by a cold compress on the head. Headaches. Combine the inner of an onion, fruit of an am tree, natron, set chef seeds, cooked bones of swordfish, cooked redfish, cooked crayfish skull, honey, and abra ointment applied to the head for 4 days. Burn wood wound prevention. Use a frog and warm it in oils and rub the afflicted spot. Or warm an electric eel's head in oils and apply it to the burn site. Oh my god. Diabetes, cakes, wheat, corn, and grits. Meiosis. There's a whole lot of eye things. Small shavings of ebony wood and saltpeter. Ow. Corneal opacity. Place powdered granite in a cloth and place upon the afflicted eye. My goodness. Oh no, hookworms. Oh, poor worms. Warm the... Now that is a German word, not an Egyptian word. Of the sow wood and oil and give it to the patient. Corsia. Inflammation of the mucous membrane inside the nose. Oh my god, look at this. Spit it out, thou slime, son of slime. Grasp the bones, touch the skull, smear with tallow. Give the patient 7 openings in the head. Serve the god Ra, thank the god Thoth. Then I brought thy remedy for thee, thy drink for thee, to drive away, to heal it. Milk of a woman who has borne a son, and fragrant bread. Foulness rises form out of the earth, the foulness to be spoken over the milk of a woman who's borne a son and the fragrant bread. And put it in the nose! Oh my god. Actually crazy. Oh. Alright, well, let's just read this. These are internal medical diseases. This apparently is a translation by B. Ebel. I don't date it to 1937. It's kind of old, but it might be better. Yeah. So the beginning of a compilation of remedies to expel diseases in the belly, remedy to open the bowels. One of the very common things you'll see in the text is that they'll list one. So it says remedy to open the bowels, milk 25 row. Row is a measurement. We talked about this in our math lecture we had last month. And so it's like milk 25 row, sycamore fruit 8 row, honey 8 row are boiled, strained, and taken for 4 days. And then what you'll see is another, and it will be say another, and it will repeat like another and stuff. Interesting. Okay. This is again, like, I might be able to find a better, I might be able to find a better translation. Let me just do a quick Google. Evers Papyrus Translation PDF. This is Internet Archive, but This is Cyril P. Bryan. I don't know when, though. This is 1930. I really wouldn't trust this one either. Although, so what this guy did is he's just translating the German. So somebody's already translated it in German, and he's just translating it again. Oh, University of St. Andrews is usually pretty good. This is 2007. Oh yeah, here we go. I love these. Okay. University of St. Andrews does a lot of really very detailed translation sheets like this, which is what I always appreciate, because it actually shows you the hieroglyphs, which I like. So it says, if you see someone suffering from mucus and his belly is stiff because of it, while he has pain in his stomach, his mucus is in his belly before it has found a way out, and it has no way out for him, and then it will rot in his belly without coming out. And it turns into worms. See, this thing is that, like, they don't understand that they are not getting worms from, like, they don't understand that they are eating things that now give them worms. It will completely turn into worms until it becomes dead matter. Then he will pass it and he will feel well immediately. If he does not pass it as worms, you will prepare laxatives for him so that he will feel well immediately. Spell against pain. Hector, if you're still here, this might be a good one. Pain leaves a swelling. Pain leaves a swelling. With my arms, I will stamp flat Busiris and will tear down Mendes. I will go to heaven and see what is done there. One will not do a thing in Abydos to expel the influence of a god, the influence of a goddess, the influence of a masculine pain demon, the influence of a female pain demon, or feminine pain demon, the influence of a dead man, the influence of a dead woman, etc., or the influence of anything bad that is in this body of mine, in this flesh of mine, or in these members of mine. But if it expels itself, the influence of a god, the influence of a goddess, the influence of a masculine pale demon, the influence of a feminine pale demon, the influence of a dead man or dead woman, or the influence, etc., or the influence of anything bad that is in this flesh of mine, in this body of mine, or in these members of mine, I will not speak, I will not repeat speaking, vomit, throw up, and perish as should be done. This is not a spell per se, Hector, or it's not a remedy per se, but it is a spell. Hopefully you can see that, but it is a like an incantation or a spell that you would say for pain, and it's a really long one. Yeah, Mendes. Mendes is a city in ancient Egypt. I think there's gonna be a ad on Twitch for a second. I'm gonna see if there's another. Yeah. Oh. This is a very weird presentation that I cannot tell. Yes, Thordal, it is. 1905. Interesting. Thank you so much for the follow. I'm looking at something very odd. Oh! Well, here's the Ebers Papyrus. Whoa! Oh my god. That's the papyrus. It's the main part, I guess. Wait a darn tootin' second. No fucking way. Oh my Lanta? Why are we? Oh my god, I gotta wait until the ad's over. Y'all, okay, so this is the Ebers Papyrus, and when you zoom out, this is what the entire thing looks like. Like, it's absolutely massive. This is on a German website, I guess. And so these are all the recipes you can see at the beginning, because you see all the like, these are definitely like numbers and probably the proportions. And I was like, what is this? It says translation off and on, and when I turn it on, it all puts them into boxes, and I hover over it, and it literally fucking it's translated. This is actually incredible. Oh my god. So this one says, another remedy to empty the abdomen and expel any evil thing that is in this body of a man. And then it says another remedy, and look, it says vegetable puree, som plants, plants, Tiam plants, Phoenician juniper berries, goo grass, prickly juniper berries, frankincense, lower Egyptian salt, to be cooked and until reduced. Before it is removed from the fire, you should add honey to be heated to lukewarm and then drink over a day. I cannot believe that this is all just here. I literally am freaking dumbfounded. Oh my god. Bap, I can very briefly explain the Rosetta Stone. I will say I'm not as well versed as to what the text actually says, but to be honest, that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But the Rosetta Stone was a large stela. The stone is only a very small portion of it that has a decree from one of the Ptolemy pharaohs, one of the Greek pharaohs who was ruling in Egypt. I believe it's about taxes. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it's about taxes. And I think his coronation. But the really reason that the Rosetta Stone is so important is that there are 3 versions of the text. So the first one is in Ancient Egyptian. The second one is in Demotic, which is a cursive Ancient Egyptian. And the bottom is in Ancient Greek. And they all say the exact same thing. And so the reason the Rosetta Stone is so important is because it was used to learn how to translate hieroglyphs. And without this one piece, this one artifact, it would have taken us a bajillion times longer to be able to translate it, because each of the texts are in the exact same, or say the exact same things. They could then compare them to the glyphs and figure out what certain glyphs mean. And it was that first, like, it wasn't just like a stepping stone, it was a huge, huge advancement because this piece was found. If it had not been found, it probably would not have been would we have been able to translate it without the Rosetta Stone? I think eventually, yes, but honestly, I would say we probably would not have really even come up to it until closer to in the 1900s. I don't think in the 1800s we would have been able to develop it really, because I feel like it would be really I don't know. It's very hard to think about, but like, well, I'll say this. I think there are other objects that both have... I'm trying to think if there are any other objects that have Greek and Egyptian hieroglyphs, and I think there might be the possibility of some objects that have that, which could help, but I'm not 100% sure. But I feel like it is not as hard as some other languages. I don't think this is as hard as other languages. I think it actually follows a lot of kind of normal grammar things. And we also have Coptic. So I feel like eventually somebody would have figured out Coptic is related to ancient Egyptian and would have backdated it and figured it out. But that would have taken like a really, really long time. It's a very, very good question. But yeah, I don't know. I just can't believe that this translation is all just here. You're very welcome, Bob. Always a pleasure. Okay, yeah. And I also know there are other pieces of a similar Rosetta Stone, because the Rosetta Stone specifically was probably one of a few pieces. And so I know there is another piece that, from a separate Rosetta Stone, but it's not as large or preserved. I just can't remember what that one is called. Another remedy to settle the urine and cause a man to pass urine: goose fat, and the great protection drug, to be heated to lukewarm and washed down with wine. Wow. Amazing. Which one? The Nabaraya Stela? I know that there is another one, and I just can't remember what it's called. So that might be the one I'm thinking of. Another remedy for eliminating swelling in the abdomen: figs, Egyptian balsam fruit, grapes, and raisins, milk, scored ripe sycamore fruit, the fruit seeds of the casat plant, ochre, frankincense, and water, to be left overnight for condensation to form and then drunk over 4 days. We are reading the Ebers Papyrus. This is a medical papyrus. So we're doing a whole discussion about like ancient Egyptian medical practices. And we were trying to find an actual like book translation of the Ebers Papyrus. And I found this thing on a German website that has the actual papyrus that you can kind of scroll through and hover over and read some of the medical some of the medical recipes. I'm trying to figure out a remedy for killing the Hefat parasitic worm: the wam fruit, the shefet fruit, the chair, like the part of an umbrella acacia, honey, beer, to be ground and left with honey to stand overnight. You should rise early in order to rub this into beer to be drunk by the man. So unfortunately, with most medical papyri and a lot of the mathematical papyri, a lot of the greatest papyri pieces we have, unfortunately, have never been found in situ, which means in the actual place that it was left. more often than not, they are purchased on the art market in the 1800s. And so we do not know where this papyrus was found. We know it was, well, I'll say this. We know it was purchased in Luxor, so it does, and we know it dates closer to the New Kingdom, so we can presume Luxor, but beyond that, we don't know, unfortunately. Yeah, R.I.P. the Library of Alexandria. So it looks like here you can sort of see the difference between these remedies and then these things over here. Although it looks like they just kind of ran out of room. Another remedy for killing a tapeworm. The part of an umbrella acacia strong beer to be cooked, then squeezed out and drunk immediately. Killing agents of disease and to eliminate the affliction caused by an undead man or an undead woman in the abdomen of a man or woman? What? What? The agents of disease. I wonder what that means. So there was the other thing that described worms, that the thing that we read earlier that said that the demon would be in your stomach and would turn into worms, which would then die. And so I'm wondering if this means that it's like that, like it's all the dead worms are becoming a dead man. When you examine someone suffering from secretion with a cut or wound where his abdomen is stiff and he is suffering in his digestive tract, then his secretion is within his abdomen. It can find no way out, and because no way exists through which it can exit from this digestive tract, it therefore contaminates his abdomen. It does not come out. It has become a worm. This is that thing I was reading before. It was then transformed completely into a worm until so that it becomes something that is dead. That I cannot believe I accidentally just picked the one that we had already read. That's crazy. You should prepare the following remedy for excretion for him so that he can be immediately comfortable. These are all ointments. Soil from the yard? That's so interesting. It's always milk from a woman who bore a son. It's always that. These are eliminating skin things. And the agents of disease is very interesting. Oh god, what is this one? This one's so long. Oh, this is the one I read before. This is so funny. That is the one spell is to be recited 4 times while spitting. This spell is to be recited 4 times while spitting upon the man's affliction. This spell is truly outstanding, tested 1,000,000 times, is what this says at the very bottom, this red portion. Isn't that so interesting? Wow. That is so wild. Another suppository for cooling the rectum. Wow. Kepperware plant, Phoenician juniper berries, prickly juniper berries, frankincense, ochre, pond tongue drug, cumin, honey, myrrh, oh my god, wait, I actually know something about this. East African camphor. Camphor is a drug that, at least I know it, one of the things that it can do is it is a it helps you suppress coughs. Suppress your coughs. But yes, this one did say Oh, extracting heat from the rectum. This is a secondary one. Antelope fat and cumin to be treated in the same manner. Oh, this says inserted into the buttocks. So each of these at the very top, these are chapters. So actually what I want to read this. What does this say at the top? No, it's just another. So each of them have numbers, and so they're sort of chapters and pages. So these are obviously all things that have to do with the butt. Yeah, another remedy for eliminating the affliction of a man, and for killing the agents of disease, for eliminating the suffering that a man has, and to treat the rectum so as to cool it. It's very interesting. There's a cooling and there's a heating. For eliminating the heat on the rectum and on the bladder for someone who suffers from much wind. I found the word for fart again. Wind. They suffer from wind. The ibu plant, salt, bottle gourd, and honey to be ground into a homogeneous mass and shaped into a suppository, shaped into a pill to be inserted into the buttock. Oh, thank you, Grout. So this is actually this is the website that, oh no, wait. So it's at the Leipzig Museum. So if that's what this is, because it does say Leipzig, this is another one. But yeah, thank you for this. This is also great. So this has all of them again. So as to cool it, inserted into the buttocks. Lots of things getting inserted there. Lower Egyptian salt, frankincense, the backbone of a steer. Ooh, I guess ground up and stuff. Hi, Bap. So all of this stuff, this is kind of a career. It's not a full-time career, but this is my brand. So I do make money off of the videos I make on TikTok, and right now we're also live streaming on Twitch, and I've been doing Twitch for longer than I've actually been making videos on TikTok. But I am an Egyptologist. This was my master's degree is in Egyptology. It's not currently what I do, but I work as a museum educator in a just different time period and location. But this is kind of a way that I can continue doing my Egyptology studies without actually going to do a PhD and actually working as an Egyptologist, which is just something that I don't want to do the typical jobs for Egyptologists. And so this is kind of a way that I can do what I really want to do, is educate the public in a simple and fun way. PhDs are oh so fun. Yeah, don't want to do it. I have been to Egypt. I went to Egypt last year. There's a couple, on TikTok, there's a couple vlogs. You can find a playlist that says Melissa Goes to Egypt, and you can see some of my trip that I went to. Craziest theory I kind of believed is the Orion correlation theory, which I did believe for a long time, and then I realized it's batshit crazy, and I have a video on it that I just posted just a couple weeks ago. You'll find it in the Asking Egyptologist playlist recently. I was gonna say, Mark, we're gonna find out if Mark likes doing a PhD or not. God, more remedies. See, I think what is so interesting is that they had so many different options. So how did the physicians know which is the best option? It's so hard. Sorry, this one looked cool. This I think is still a remedy for treating the rectum. So it's wine, honey, earth hair fruit. Interesting. Juice from a carob fruit, plant puree from the shati cake, goose fat, to be cooked and shaped into a shati cake, so a specific type of cake, to be eaten any day, and washed down with a third decantation of watery beer. which is really fun. Clap on the butt. No fun classes. Do you know what classes you're taking? What should be done for a blockage due to heat in the rectum when the patient suffers from contractions in his legs? That's very specific. That's so interesting. Why do they need to eliminate heat from the rectum? I'm just trying to like think of why they would think it needs like heat. Like, why is it heating? Another remedy for eliminating magic from the abdomen of a man or a woman. This is eliminating magic in the abdomen. There is something called a, and I quote, "my arm holds my arm grasped" plant. What is the weirdest plant I've ever heard in my life? Dr. Zahiwas he is a reputable Egyptologist. He has done countless studies, excavations, written tons and tons of books, made amazing actual discoveries, has done a lot for the Egyptian people, to encourage them to get into Egyptology, to encourage them to go into conservation and work and appreciate their culture. He also is kind of an asshole, personally. So, like, I can't not credit him with all of the stuff that he has done, but he's not the best dude in general, like, personally. And he's been on Joe Rogan's show, and yeah. That's what I'm wondering, like, Silver, that it is, like, a burning feeling, and that, like, that would make the most sense to me, because otherwise it's just, like, I feel like that doesn't make what else must that mean? I also agree, Star. I think over the past couple years, yeah, so he did his second PhD. I think he had a PhD, or no, wait. Yeah, he did his PhD at UPenn, but I feel like no, I don't think he got a PhD earlier. I think he had a master's somewhere else, like probably American University of Cairo. But no, he got his PhD at UPenn. It's like one of the top schools for Egyptology is UPenn. It's where my language professor did his entire schooling. Hemorrhoids, that's another option. I don't know. This is gonna sound weird. I don't really know what. Are hemorrhoids like little pustules? Like, are they warm? Like, would they like, it's a very, like, I don't know. But yeah, hemorrhoids are definitely a possibility. Real men grow beards! How are you? Oh no! Babysitting a grown-ass man until he finally goes to bed at 4 a.m. Oh my goodness. Jeez Louise. Welcome on in. We're talking about butt stuff. Actually, I think we might have moved on to stomach afflictions. Apologies, my love, but hopefully you get to rewatch it soon because it is pretty good. No! Not allowed. I'm just trying to be funny. And I'm a little silly because I'm tired. This one says, another remedy for treating the chest and for eliminating any illness in the abdomen and for treating the lungs. Oh, the responsible member? That's really funny. He did need a clap on the butt. I was gonna say, he didn't hear all the all the suppositories in the butt. We are reading the Ebers Papyrus right now, and some of the very wild, interesting things. Experimental knowledge regarding stomach afflictions. When you examine a man with a blocked digestive tract who has difficulty eating, and when his stomach is restricted, literally narrow, when his stomach is narrow, and his heart, or disposition, because heart, the word for heart is a very complicated and really nuanced word. Like heart, so ib is the word for heart, and it is both for the physical heart, but it is also for emotion, it's for disposition, it's for a lot of emotional things, like not physical things. In some cases, an ib is a part of your soul. Like it's very, very, very nuanced, and so it can be translated a lot of different ways. So in this case, it's like his heart is too weak, but it's not his heart, it's probably his disposition. Like he's just weak in general. For walking, like for a man suffering from heat in his rectum. Again, the heat in his rectum. Then examine him in the following manner while he lies on his back. If you find that his abdomen is hot, and there is a blockage in his digestive tract, then you say this. This is an episode of the liver. And then you prepare the secret remedy from herbs and that a physician usually prepares from quote unquote sheep melon and shredded dates to be mixed together, squeezed out with water, and drunk by the man over 4 mornings, in order that you clear his abdomen. After having done this, if you then find with both channels, so remember, they don't believe in, they don't really, they believe that everything is done in channels instead of like vessels and such. So if you find with both channels of his abdomen that the right side of his body is warm and the left side is cool, then you say for this is a symptom of restricting its eating. And then you examine him again. If you find his abdomen has completely cooled, then you say his liver is open and has rinsed itself. He has accepted the remedy. Very interesting, very detailed. When you examine a man with a blockage that causes increased coughing, where his symptoms under his rib cage are like clumps of feces, then you say for this, these are hardenings on both his ribs. Ooh. His digestive tract has contracted itself, and then you prepare a strong remedy for him to drink, fresh puree cooked with oil and fat, honey, wormwood, Phoenician juniper berries. Juniper berries seem to be used a lot. Shasha fruit to be placed into this puree and cooked into a homogeneous mass to be drunk over 4 days. When you examine him after this and you find that he is showing the symptoms of the first case, then this means he will recover. Ah, why did Mark clip it? Ooh. When you examine a man who suffers in his digestive tract, when he is afflicted in his arm, his chest, and the side of his digestive tract, you say of it, that is a green coloring. Then you say for this is something that has entered through the mouth. That is death that has passed through him. Then you prepare a Jeb-Deb-like herbal remedy for him. Fruit seeds of the tewa plant, casset plant, pennyroyal. Oh, pennyroyal is an actual medical. Fleabane, desheru pods of barley to be cooked with oil and fat and drunk by the man. Then you place your hand flexed over him until the arm is comfortable and free of distress. And then you say the misery is to descend to the straight intestine and to the rectum. I should not need to use that remedy ever again. I hate you guys. I knew I would regret it as soon as I said it. And he vomits often. Blockage of the digestive system. He wheezes and he walks. This is so interesting. There's so many different things. I will say, interestingly, not as many, like a lot of them are internal, like diseases. Like a lot of these are not, there's not very little like, at least for this one, there's not a lot of like, you've broken a bone, you need stitches, like things like this is like a lot of internal like pharmacology. This is pharmacy and apothecary stuff. And a lot of it is very, very oddly and specifically described. Like, look how long this is. When you examine a man with a blockage, oh, so remember, the blockage is that they believe that there are channels for all of the liquids. So a blockage is any blockage. It does not necessarily mean like there's a physical thing in the blockage or in the digestion and stuff. No, absolutely not. So this says, when you examine a man with a blockage where his heart is aggravated, in which his face is pale and his heart beats intensely, when you examine him and also find his heart is hot and his abdomen inflated, this is a deeply ingrained accumulation acquired after he has eaten something burnt. And then prepare a remedy in the form of a drink for him to wash out the burnt material and open his bowels. Sweet beer. To be left standing overnight with scored ripe sycamore fruit that is dried. This is very interesting. Bob, not exactly. There are a lot of different theories, but the main one is ramps. And then it's just what type of ramp, in what position, but ramps. Ramps, men, and pulling stone and such. Dino, we don't fight people. We try our best to explain, but unfortunately when it comes to social media, I've kind of reached like an impasse where you can't explain something like that in the comments. Like, you really need like a very nuanced conversation, and you really can't explain it in a video where there's a chance that nobody's going to watch the entire video. And so I've kind of made that my boundary, that I will explain it and talk to people. Like, we literally talked to somebody earlier today who I was explaining it to, but like, we just don't, it's too hard to explain identity in a comment. And I've tried. You've probably seen my comments. There's been a couple people right now who are like very adamant, and I'm just like, I don't know how to explain to you that race was not a concept until the 17th century. Like, I'm sorry. They're Egyptian. They could, if you're talking about actual color of their skin tone, yes, maybe, but that's not the same thing. That's not what they're saying for the most part. No, it does sound like heartburn. I was thinking it was either heartburn or literally like a heart attack, but it does sound like heartburn. These are shorter ones. Accumulation of heat on the heart. That might be heartburn. There's so many ones. I do not know, Mark. We gotta find that out. See, that's the interesting thing, is I don't know how much we know about... That's fine, Mark. I don't know how much, like... A lot of this medical stuff, again, is very internal. It's not a lot of the external, you break a bone, you need stitches, you need stuff like that. But I would say either plant fibers or potentially linen. It seems a little crazy, but potentially linen thread. Like, they could. I don't think it's that. I think that would be the more fancy of the option, but I don't think it's the worst thing. No! I hate you guys! I might delete the clip. I might delete the clip. I can't. No, I do not. I did not know that off the top of my head, but those are the two options that I would assume of some sort. I'm trying to, this is all. No, I hate you so much. Silver? I could kill you. I'm so embarrassed. Bap, I literally do so many videos about Egypt news. I can't think of anything specifically that is like something that we thought was right, but that was proven wrong. But like I report on every single Egypt news thing that comes through. But I can't think of anything like specifically. Dina, we also can't necessarily exactly say that because it's thousands and thousands of years ago. And we don't necessarily, like, every person had different, like, skin tone. So, like, you can't say that every ancient Egyptian had the same skin tone as the modern Egyptians. That's just not true either. Like, you can't make those kind of wide assumptions when we don't have accurate images. We don't have accurate images of what ancient Egyptians look like. We don't have, the mummies are all usually affected by the mummification process and the drying process, so that is not always the accurate skin tone of what they would be. So like, also, why are we, why is it all about skin tone? Why does it doesn't have, like, why can't we all just get along? Oh my god, look at this. This is amazing. Yes, Dina, I went last year. Yes, Rearmonger Beards, as we all know, the Egyptians strove to have, not blue or yellow skin. They strove to have gold skin like the gods. Gods had gold skin, lapis lazuli hair, and silver bones. And that is what the ancient Egyptians always strived to get to and to be. So this is so interesting. This section is talking about all of the things that a castor plant can do. So knowledge of what can be made from the castor plant according to the instructions that are found in the text of ancient times. Isn't that freaking crazy? It's not that they actually had blue hair. It's that the ancient Egyptians believed the gods were like, every god had gold skin, lapis lazuli, blue hair, and like made out of stone called lapis lazuli. And so then the ancient Egyptians wanted to get to that point. And so that is why a lot of, like Tutankhamun, think about all of his, like his mask is made out of gold because he wanted to have the gold skin of the gods because he wanted to turn into a god. As he was the son of a god, as every pharaoh believes it and stuff. Exactly, Dina. So it doesn't have to be about skin tone when we say, yeah, the ancient Egyptians and the modern Egyptians are related. Nobody's doubting that, but you also have to acknowledge that there's also a lot of mixing in Egypt from ancient times of the Greeks and the Persians and the Assyrians and the Nubians and then the Ottomans and the Arabs. Like it's a huge intermixing of cultures, very similar to a lot of other places around the world. So everyone is related in lots of different ways. So it's something that I don't know why we need to compare the two, honestly. It's thousands of years ago. We're never going to be able to have the huge genealogy chart of how we can compare these two cultures together via families and all of these things. Yeah, I understand what you mean, Roxy. Why is the whole thing? There we go. Yeah, gold skin and blue hair. I know people love to compare, but it's annoying. It's just like... Bop, it is the easiest and most stable thing to build the tallest structure. Rather than building like an obelisk or building something straight tall, the most stable way to build a tall structure is in a pyramid. So, that's why. And I'm sorry, Dina, but it's a complicated thing that unfortunately everyone's going to have different opinions of. And it's not necessarily wrong because it is an Arabic country and there's a lot of Arabic history in the country as well. So it's not wrong. You can just say you're Egyptian That's the best way to say it. Identity is a giant bubble, and people can accept different identities, and it's very individual. And so it's hard to reflect that, and you just have to educate as kindly as you can that identity is different, is that some people might not identify with that Arabic side of Egyptians, but many people might also. And so it's when you're kind of in a country that is so diverse, you have to kind of accept that many people are going to see it differently. Okay, I wanted to read the rest of this castor oil stuff. Its roots are to be pounded in water, to be laid upon the head of the man who is ill. He shall then immediately be healthy, as though he was not ill. Also, something from the seeds can be chewed together with beer by a man with diarrhea. This serves to eliminate the symptoms of illness in the abdomen of the man. Also, one can promote growth of a woman's hair with its seeds. That's fucking true. Castor oil is great on hair. Isn't that absolutely batshit crazy that, oh my god, that's actually written right there. Sorry, I'm cursing. That's like so fucking cool that that's right there. To be ground and made into a homogeneous mass, put in oil and fat. The woman then anoints her head with this. Isn't that crazy? Oh my god, that is so cool. And look, it says at the very bottom, it has that little really great little anecdote at the very end. This recipe is truly outstanding, tested 1,000,000 times, which I just love. I love that, like, it has that very personal, like, this is like my stamp of approval. It's the doctor's seal of approval of something that is like really, really well done. That is so interesting. I did not know that they like actually described a ingredient and all the different things that it could be used for. Another remedy for cooling a head that is painful. Ochre, frankincense, petrified wood, waneb plant, East African camphor, a horn of a fallow deer, gum resin, natron, which is a type of salt, clay from a potter, carob fruit, water, to be ground and then placed on the head. This is so interesting. I think we've reached head remedies, looks like. Oh, remedy for eliminating congestion of heat in the bladder. Oh my god, it's 11:30. Okay, I actually have to go to bed because I have a morning tour tomorrow, unfortunately. Another remedy for eliminating urine that occurs in large quantities. Oh, there's a hole there. Whoa, what is this one? Beginning of remedies for the removal of the secretions from the groin. Not fun. Not fun. Alright, unfortunately I have to go to bed. Oh, damn, I really want to keep going, but it's 11:30. If I didn't have work tomorrow, I would really keep going.